Hey, what's going on, guys? We've got a kind of a fun video. This is from Cappy. A lot of you, if you guys know my channel, you sure as hell know Cappy's channel. Let me show you real quick in case you don't. Right, oh, my fucking body's in the way. Cappy Army right here. This guy is one of the, in my opinion, and probably via the metrics as well, one of the most successful war commentators, conflict commentators, journalists. Not exactly sure how you would title what his title would be, because he does a lot of cool stuff. Anyways, this is going to go over multiple conflicts and the combat footage in these different conflicts, right? So he said there's something about Navy SEALs, there's Ukraine battles, there's something in Syria. So this will be cool. Before we jump into it, I want to tell you guys my name is Saxon. I go by Vegas here in Ukraine. I just got off of a deployment here in Ukraine with Azov's International Battalion. I used to be in the International Legion back in 2023, and that only lasted a handful of months. Then I moved over to Azov's International Battalion. So if you are on your way out to Ukraine, you're considering it, you've got friends on the way out, please tell them to hit up a solid unit. Do not go get meat waved in a unit that it does not have your best interest in mind, okay? If you're interested in coming over here to Azov, the link is down below. It's my direct link, so if you click on that, it'll take you straight to the application. And once you submit the application, it'll say that you basically came from, you know me, right? I don't know why my shit's all fucked up. Looks weird. Anyways, so check that out. Click the link down below. And I do want to say this. I have this deployment that I was just on. A large percentage of the soldiers I deployed with were you guys. Came from this channel, had faith in the stuff that I was saying, came here to Ukraine, joined Azov's International Battalion instead of the International Legion like I was in, and put in some really, really fucking solid work on the zero line and beyond here in Ukraine, Eastern Ukraine. So that's so cool. It still blows my mind, man, that I was talking to you guys over text and emails just a handful of months ago. Well, more than that now. And you guys came here, trained, became badass, even more badass soldiers if you already were one. And if you weren't, you became a badass soldier and just went out there and smashed face. It was a very successful deployment. And if I could share more details about it in the future, I will. So let's jump into this Cappy Army's video. Let's go.
Today, we're going to examine combat footage from around the world. Navy SEALs smoking ISIS in Syria, Ukrainian...
Hey, I'm sure you guys watched this guy. In his comment section, tell him to hit me up, or tell him I want to meet him, tell him I somehow want to do some kind of collab interview or something, man. I'm Vegas, right? You could call me Vegas. Different Breed TV is the channel. Call me Saxon, my real name, whatever. Hit up his comments.
Mechanized ground assaults and cartel firefights in Mexico. We're going to analyze the tactics used and give a broader geopolitical context behind each of these clips while treating my PTSD through exposure therapy.
Okay. That's how
Our first clip comes to us from Syria, where the most bizarre shootout of the entire Syrian civil war occurred that almost no one heard about. It involved American soldiers, Russian troops, and Syrian government militiamen, all tangled together at this rural checkpoint. It was a classic cluster of a situation. The date was February 12, 2020, and the operation started as a routine U.S. military armored patrol of MRAPs rolling into the northeastern village near Kashalami, which I definitely said incorrectly. This area lies just a few miles away from some of Syria's most valuable oil fields. Those oil fields were largely secured by U.S. troops and Kurdish allies, the SDF. Because everyone knows there's nothing worth dying for more than oil. It's surreal to watch the footage here. You can see flags from Russia, Syria, and the United States all being flown at the same time at this checkpoint, each by military forces that were operating under different...
Dude, imagine the tension in the air at this checkpoint, dude. Like, oh, I bet you could cut it with a knife, dude. Just, I would be just on edge the whole time, just fucking...
different command structures and different rules of engagement. The conflict started because the American troops were blocking the road and preventing the Russians from getting to those oil fields. Keep in mind, by this part of the war, tensions were boiling because just 2 years prior, the US military had killed an estimated 200 Russian Wagner mercenaries at the Battle of Kasham, so the Russians...
That's an interesting story. I think we reacted to it, or I thought about it a while back, but that's crazy. Wagner got straight up annihilated by some U.S. forces, including, I believe, an AC-130.
Were a little bit butthurt going into this. Ever since, Russia had been testing boundaries and bumping into American patrols. It had become routine. In fact, this Kamshili shootout that's about to happen was the 8th altercation between US and Russian forces in Syria in just a matter of months. Prior incidents included aggressive vehicle rammings, electronic warfare interference, and blockades on key roads like the M4 highway that runs through the entire northeastern part of Syria. It was a pattern. Neither side wanted to shoot first at each other, but both were just itching to make hard eye contact.
Why do men find it so difficult to make eye contact? To expect.
Attack and assert dominance. So what happens next is the American patrol encounters this crowd of pro-Assad loyalists blocking the road. And footage aired on Kurdistan 24 shows evidence of Russian soldiers speaking directly to the Syrian civilians, encouraging them to chant "Get out USA." Even though that doesn't sound very catchy, maybe in Arabic it is. It appeared to be a calculated attempt to stir up an anti-American mob. It's absolute freaking chaos. Before we get into what happens next, when I switched to Jocko Fuel, something in my life changed, and at first I couldn't tell what it was. It was a big old mystery.
Dude, that's how you know you made it, bro. As a war conflict YouTuber, you're sponsored by Jocko. Shit.
As soon as my buddies from my old unit found out I was partnering with Jocko Fuel, a bunch of them asked me to send them energy drinks if I could directly. For what it's worth, I've never had people reach out to me and ask for product like that before. What was going on here? Take a look at the facts. The Go energy drinks hit me like a strong cup of coffee with 95 milligrams of caffeine, but that's the thing. There's no crash afterwards because they're packed with adaptogens and zero sugar. Then the Mulk protein shake has 30 grams of clean, grass-fed protein with zero chalky aftertaste. That's what was happening to me. That's what was becoming clear here, why everyone wants them so badly. That's what changed in my daily routine. I no longer had a nasty, overstimulated crash each day. Jocko Fuel is about sustainable performance. Like my old squad leader used to say, don't burn out, you I use Jocko Fuel for the energy to run my business, take care of my newborn baby, and still find time to research each episode with my team. Ditch the junk, fuel up with something that's actually good for you. Go to jockofuel.com and use my code CAPPY25 for 25% off your first order. The link's in the description. Back to the episode. What happens next is the Kurdish news crew begins filming and trying to get an interview with one of the US soldiers on site. Suddenly, gunfire erupts from pro-regime militia elements in the crowd. If we stop the video, we can see there are 4 separate gunmen aiming at the Americans and firing. The camera jerks and dives for cover. US soldiers are seen taking machine gun fire. A few Russian soldiers can be seen in a couple of frames here running back to one of their Tiger armored vehicles and their BTRs. The firefight ends up escalating. We can see on camera 4 Syrian regime militiamen run up to the American MRAP and throw gasoline on it, attempting to light the vehicle on fire, while others in the crowd start firing small arms rounds directly at it. The Americans return fire. In the exchange, 1 Syrian is killed and at least another one is wounded. None of the US troops are injured, although 1 vehicle is visibly damaged. Within minutes,
the rules of engagement in the Middle East are crazy to me, right? I was not in the military prior to Ukraine. I never deployed to Afghanistan, Iraq, anything like that. But the Americans and probably other Western militaries just put up with a lot of shit like this before they're actually allowed to do something, man. Like in Ukraine, if somebody rolled up and started pouring gasoline and try to light your vehicle on fire, you would just eviscerate them.
U.S. air support is overhead. 2 American F-15 fighter jets from nearby bases in Iraq conduct a show of force, passing at low altitude, dropping flare decoys to signal escalation readiness. Russian troops mediate the standoff, and both sides pull back. A lot of people probably have no idea how narrowly we avoided a world war, or at least a full-blown international crisis. Exciting news to share with you guys. We just had our baby girl last week. I haven't slept since then.
Congrats.
She's an absolute angel and I love her. I legitimately owe everything to you guys' support, so I just wanted to share the good news with you all. The art of war is simple enough. Find out where your enemy is, get at him as soon as you can, strike him as hard as you can, and keep moving on. Last year in June 2024, something bizarre happened. Video of helmet cam footage from US Navy SEAL operations was posted on Instagram. It was then shortly afterwards deleted and briefly scrubbed from online, but it had already been widely shared. The videos were posted by an Air Force drone operator attached to the elite unit, and he somehow got access to a hard drive with a bunch of DevGru files. This clip, likely from Syria, is a rare look at how Tier 1 operates. We can see a team of US Navy SEALs conduct a vehicle interdiction operation against a high-value target who's driving in a car across the desert.
Tesla.
At least 4 Black Hawk helicopters carrying the team fly in low and try to get the vehicles to stop. The fact that they're doing this in broad daylight could mean that they're trying to capture them alive for intelligence. It's also possible that it's just giving them the element of surprise to catch them like this. By confronting the targets on the open road, there's less risk of getting shot in a raid in a confined building. The vehicles don't stop from visually seeing them, so the SEALs let a rip of burst from their minigun as a warning. The shots cross about 50 meters in front of the enemy vehicles. The helicopters hover low and deliberately kick up sand with their rotor wash as a kind of psychological tool to intimidate the target and to disorient. Instead of stopping, though, the vehicles veer off the right side of the road, so the SEAL team delivers another rip, this time right in front of the vehicle to try to get them to stop, but they continue speeding forward. The SEALs then use their M134 minigun to destroy the vehicle. The M134 is frequently seen used by SOCOM. It fires the 7.62 by 51mm full-powered cartridge at 6,000 rounds per minute through 6 rotating barrels. This is more difficult to maintain and more expensive at about $200,000 a pop, but its damage per second stat is insane because they turn that vehicle into Swiss cheese. The video continues as we see a second interdiction. This time, there are 2 vehicles. The SEALs let off another rip of their minigun, and this time the cars are a little bit more interested in their self-preservation. We can see the helicopter line up on either side of the road, trying to prevent all routes of escape. This appears to have been taken in Syria, where US forces were at the time battling against some of Iran's proxy militia and ISIS elements. Based on the patches on these troops, we can see they're from Silver Squadron, aka Headhunters, one of the 4 Navy SEAL assault squadrons that we know of: red, blue, gold, and silver.
Dude, that's so sick.
Within the Navy's elite DevGru unit, SEAL Team 6. These helicopters are flown by the 160th, which is the most well-trained pilots in the entire force. They're known for being able to fly precise movements with these birds. We almost never get to see how they conduct tactical site exploitation, but here we can see the SEALs getting off the helicopter.
We've got one of our, somebody in leadership here in the Azov's International Battalion. The unit that I'm in was a Night Stalker. He was a helicopter, one of those helicopter pilots in the 160th.
They're returning fire at the vehicle, dumping an entire magazine. They eliminate a number of targets at the vehicle. Then they begin looking for intelligence, and it's interesting to note they don't open the trunk with the trunk handle. Instead, they use tools to rip open the top of the trunk to get in from the top. And the reason they do this is because they want to avoid any booby traps. Bomb makers will often rig their trunk to explode when opened. But if you're interested, I've been doing a weekly uncensored version of this show on Pepperbox for months. There's already 9 combat reviews on there. If you want to sign up, it's free for the first 2 weeks. Otherwise, it's $8 a month if you enjoy it. I don't know what effect these men will have upon the enemy, but by God, they terrify me. Our next clip comes to us from Mexico, in their state of Tamaulipas, where I think it's important for us to see just how wild the engagements with the cartel have become. We see the Mexican army is in a Mad Max-style open road firefight with cartel Sicario hitmen. Our private callsign Whiskas fires his FN Mini-Me at the fleeing enemy. I don't have to speak Spanish to know they're saying, "Let's go, Whiskas. And shoot faster, will ya?" I'm pretty sure a scene from Sicarios 2 was based on this exact shootout. I remember watching
We also use the FN Mini-Me for our machine gunners here in Azov. FN Mini-Me is basically the Belgian M249, or 249, I think.
a road firefight and thinking that's unrealistic. That would never happen in Mexico. Boy, was I wrong. You can see the gunner on the top of the vehicles laying down suppressive fire as civilian vehicles whiz past them and trucks move on the other side. They're very likely in the 101 freeway over there, one of the most trafficked routes. This next clip comes to us from the beautiful central Mexican state of Zacatecas, showing the weaponry deployed by Cartel. They're using M203 grenade launchers underslung on AR rifles, high-cut, fast helmets, just the type that usually special forces use. They have kit that looks like these guys could be friggin' CAG. Their Cartel's got body armor, but they don't have any red dot aiming sights on their weapons, at least not even an ACOG.
What is CAG? He said they look like they could be CAG. Let me know in the comments. I have not heard that term.
You can see from the terrain, though, that the firefights are in mountains and huge valleys that they have here. This is between two cartels. The firefights are in mountains and huge valleys that...
Does he have a box mag on an M4?
They have...
And and a M203 grenade launcher. That's crazy.
Here, this is between two cartels, the CJNG and the Sinaloa cartel, who are still both fighting for control of key trafficking routes through Mexico up to America. We hear there's a drug war going on in Mexico, but we don't actually often see the reality of what that war looks like on the ground, so that's why I think it's important for us to see this. You can see from this clip that took place in Los Garros in June, Cartel del Noreste released drone footage of them deploying a ghetto pimp my ride version of an infantry fighting vehicle. It's even got a mounted 50 cal rifle on it, and they're firing off shots right next to a Cartel de Golfo armored vehicle. Those shots definitely go right through it. They're taking drive-by shootings to another level here. There is tons of footage showing how the cartel is now using drones to drop bombs on each other and the Mexican military. It's something to keep an eye on, I think, as they obtain more sophisticated weapons and tactics. In 2025,
Drones, man. Drones. I said this, I've said this in my last couple of videos since I've been back from deployment, but the drone threat when I was with the Legion in 2023 was heavy. There was quite the drone threat. Now it is absurd. Absolutely insane. I mean, words almost don't even do it justice, man, because I can't really explain the full amount of drones. Like, there's always 100% of the time there is a drone in your vicinity when you're on a combat mission. Whether it's an FPV looking to take your head off, or it's a Mavic doing surveillance, or it's an Orlan doing high altitude surveillance, whatever. There's always at least one. Most of the time it's like minimum 3 to 4.
We've seen the heat was turned up on the cartel leadership, with the leader of the Los Chapitos gang killed in a firefight with Mexican security forces in 2025. The Mexican military is filled with brave soldiers who very often wipe the floor with the cartel sicarios when it comes to gunfights, but this is an asymmetrical battle. It's like fighting an insurgency, they pop up somewhere else. Our next clip comes to us from Eastern Europe in Ukraine, with an infantry tank assault straight out of maybe a Russian field manual. This is the Georgian Legion of soldiers who have traveled from Georgia to fight against Russia. They're assaulting a Wagner forces position. You can see the tank laying down 50 cal.
I've met a lot of guys in the Georgian Legion. They are fighters, man. Georgians hate Russians about as much as Ukrainians do, because the Russians have done similar shit in the history of Georgia's history. So this is interesting. Did he say when this was?
They're a Georgian Legion of soldiers straight out of maybe a Russian field manual. This is the Georgian Legion of soldiers who have traveled from Georgia to fight against Russia. They're assaulting a Wagner forces position. You can see the tank laying down 50 cal giant rounds, machine gun fire on the berm of the trench, and the enemy
Had to have been 2022 or early 2023, because number one, there's Wagner there still. There's no longer Wagner here in Ukraine. And number two, you can't ride on vehicles like that anymore. I did the same thing in 23 with the Legion, not on a tank, but on a armored BMP. You can't do that anymore. The FPVs just basically made that impossible.
Enemy trenches less than 100 meters away as the infantry and the tanks move up together with the infantry and the enemy 50 cal giant rounds machine gun fire on the berm of the trench, and the enemy trench is less than 100 meters away as the infantry and the tanks move up together with the infantry using the tanks as cover as they move up slowly. Trenches are hard targets to destroy, and we can see the tank's 50 cal machine gun is suppressing the enemy, but it doesn't effectively take their cover out. So the T-Series tank starts pounding the position on the berm with accurate cannon fire, and that does the trick. The infantry is able to move all the way up to the tough part, which is the trench clearing. We see the assault did its job though, because that violence of action, that shock value of the tank made the Russians flee out the back of the trench. 14 enemy were reportedly KIA in this battle. Our next clip shows us the difference between counterinsurgency, room clearing, and high-intensity nation-state war. This is the Ukrainians' Omega Special Operations Group. It's one of the most daring raids I've ever seen. They pull up to this giant building that's...
There's two Omega units here in Ukraine. There's the Omega unit in the Legion Gore, right? So it's Gore, which is a special forces outfit, but it's the International Legion version. So there's an Omega team in that, and then there's the Ukrainian Gore, the Ukrainian Special Forces Omega team. That's probably who this is. The Ukrainian Special Force, I think they're both pretty solid teams, but the Ukrainian Special Forces, the Ukrainian Omega team is fucking high speed.
Occupied by a Russian platoon. You would think that they're going to clear the building surgically, go through it, but no, they jump out, start shooting everywhere, put satchels C4 charges on it, and then they shoot the windows to suppress the enemy. We see from several different points of view we're jumping back and forth between of each Ukrainian soldier doing different jobs. Some of them are suppressing fire on the windows, while others move up and plant explosives in key structural positions. This showcases to me how they've adapted and overcome to some limitations. Since they don't have as many glide bombs they can fire, they have to deliver their bombs in a different method, a very innovative one. They also stuff the building full of anti-tank mines, and then they peel off and exfiltrate to safety. The building is then blown up, which if you've ever seen how buildings are made in Eastern Bloc countries, they're pretty solid out of freaking concrete, so collapsing one like that is impressive. That's a lot of boom. One of the Omega soldiers was injured in the raid reportedly, but in return they inflicted heavy damage on the Russian position that day. This next clip comes to us from the war raging in the Middle East, and on...
That's how people should do CQB. Just collapse the building.
On a tactical level, I found it to be pretty interesting. The IDF is having a tough go of it in the beginning. They take gunfire from a direction that they can't really figure out where it's coming from. The squad moves all around looking for where the shots are coming from. Finally, they deploy a small drone. The quadcopter flies around and locates where the shots are finally originating from. They throw frag grenades into the crawl space and kill their enemy. This clip, I think, shows us how fast war is changing. When I was in, you never had the ability to have that kind of situational awareness without putting yourself at considerable risk. Next, we move over to Syria.
See, drones are cool when you're the only one that has one, right? When you're the only team or side or the only fighting force that has one. But when your enemy has them, and oftentimes a lot more of them, and oftentimes a lot nicer, drones suck at that point.
Where we can see Western special forces have embedded with Kurdish militia. This takes place in northeastern Syria in 2016. US special forces were on the ground training these groups to fight ISIS. They start firing at a kamikaze ISIS truck that has makeshift armor all over it. It's a V-bed, vehicle-borne IED. It looks like it's gonna get away and escape until a javelin freaking missile's fired at it. This was back in the day before those things were in short supply, so firing one at a random-ass Helix truck didn't seem like a big waste of money, but they entirely smoked that ISIS truck to the core. I've thought about this often. That man and I might have been good friends. We might have had a lot in common. He might have liked to fish. He might have liked to hunt. Of course, they were doing what they were supposed to do, and I was trying to do what I was supposed to do. But under different circumstances, we might have been good friends. Next up is Afghanistan, where we see Marsoc. Circumstances, we might have been good friends.
Shifty Powers, Easy Company. Oh, the 101.
Next up is Afghanistan, where we see MARSOC, which is
101st.
essentially the Marine Elite Special Forces unit. I read the book Level 0 Heroes that was about these guys in this clip. This is Marine Special Operations Team 8222 and their deployment. What happened was on November 4th, 2009, two paratroopers from the U.S. Army 82nd Airborne, Sergeant Sherman and Islip, drowned in the Murhab River in Afghanistan, trying to retrieve supplies from an airdrop near Fob Tod. The problem was, the entire valley was a Taliban stronghold, so retrieving their fallen bodies meant that they would have to clear the entire region to get to them, but we don't leave any fallen soldiers behind. There are a couple of wild things about this clip. The first thing that stands out to me is that the Marines are using ATVs, unarmored vehicles, as they patrol out to clear this stronghold to get to retrieve these bodies. These ATVs allowed the Marines to get up high on these hills and be in an unpredictable spot. It allowed them to have the high ground, the advantage, as they're seen raining down all kinds of bullets and munitions on the Taliban enemy. The second thing that stands out to me is their professionalism. They're shooting, moving, communicating with each other while staying calm. The third thing is it's unusual to see video footage where such accurate shots are being taken at them. You can see the dirt kicking up around this Marine. Though the Marine recording it even says they're shooting at you, Dolphin, as a friendly heads up. Unfortunately, Dolphin would later be KIA on a deployment a year later. We see they drop a 2,000-pound JDAM on the enemy position once they're able to locate it, and they're eventually able to recover the bodies of the 82nd Airborne soldiers and clear half the valley of enemy Taliban positions to restore security for the time being. Let me know if you enjoyed this format of analyzing.
MARSOC's so cool, dude. The Marine Special Forces. I think it's probably, in my opinion, like the coolest Special Forces unit or outfit. Hold on, let's finish this.
Combat footage from around the world. If you did, we'll do one of these each month on here. And if you like this episode in the series, we already have a bunch of episodes on Pepperbox. The link is in the description, completely uncensored. There's episodes where I react with former Navy SEAL Commander Jocko Willink on there, and Fat Electrician, Veteran with a Sign, and more. Be sure to go to CappyArmy.com for merch. You can get the enhanced.
Yo, tell Cappy to hit me up, man. Let's do an interview or something. Let's do a little like podcast episode or some shit. Check his channel out. I'm gonna link it in the description below. Do me a favor, like, subscribe, share. I am back from deployment now, guys, and I'm here to stay, at least for the foreseeable future. So, this was interesting. Let me know in the comments if you liked it, like he said, if you like this kind of format, because it's really cool to. I only talk about Ukraine combat footage because that's all I have experience in, right? So. This is a whole different ball game. Pretty cool. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Oh, also, link in the description below if you want to come join us in Azov. Peace.